Jumpin In on Manx Radio.
With Howard and Chris Kane.
Hello.
Good evening.
And welcome. And here we are once again, Friday evening on Manx Radio. It can only mean one thing, well, two things actually, Sweet and Swing, or in this case, Jumpin' In, the best in modern and contemporary jazz with myself, H.
And me, Chris. Yes, welcome along to this show, and we have the usual batch of the latest releases covering the breadth of modern and contemporary jazz. And yes, the school and universities are all on holiday, so no doubt are many of you. But fear not, you can still catch up with your favourite show, Jumpin' In, either online or via your favourite podcast app. So, H, what's been putting you in the holiday mood? The constant increase in the price of your regular holiday tipples and snacks, or the isn't it summer weather, which has had you between reaching for your thermals and the thermostat, or searching for your budgie smugglers and the factor 50?
Well, or either. Take your pick. I am thinking a Blue Note, the new club, one way or another. I'm thinking Ronnie Scott's, the old club, and something we're going to see. I'm thinking ECM forums online and some tributaries, courtesy of New England.
And from me, it's inclement, but not in a major way. It's a bit of a lottery, but is it a winner? And it's a brassica. But to kick things off, here's a really unusual project from Jon Beasley and the SWR Big Band. Here they are with the title track of their latest release, Invisible Piano. Jon Beasley and the SWR Big Band with the title track from their recent release Invisible Piano, although when I tell you a bit more about the project you might think Invisible Pianist would have been a better title. It took shape over a course of 3 years, starting in an art gallery in Stuttgart where he took inspiration directly from some artworks which inspired him, and he sang melodies improvised into his phone. Shortly afterward he got offered a commission from the SWR Big Band and an idea began to gel. He's already a Steinway artist, and he decided to use their Stereo pianos, which allow you to record your performance, and the piano accurately will replay all the performance nuances. He then improvised based on his rough sketches that he'd sung in his phone, expanding the ideas for big band, and toured with the band with him as conductor, and the piano happily playing along as his ghost. Amazingly, it works. The album was recorded in 23, but just recently released. Not resting on his laurels, Jon, he's touring this year with 5 major projects, including celebrating both obviously Miles and Coltrane. With a band called Unlimited Miles, he will have a new ensemble, and Marcus Miller and he will reimagine both Tutu and a mandala with the Metropole Orchestra. Then he'll conduct Hamburg's NDR Big Band with his reimagination of Field to Kilimanjaro, and then Frankfurt's HR Big Band with Isaiah Collier working through the Coltrane catalogue at Stockholm's Concert House Concert Hall. He then has a triple centennial of Miles and Stockholm's Concert Hall where he will play a repertoire mixture of both Miles and Coltrane. In between times, touring with Diane Reeves and the odd gig or two with the Monkestra. Hopefully we can look forward to at least some of that appearing on discs in the future.
Fingers crossed. Hope you're taking notes on that. Always a busy man, I must admit. And yeah, we did feature him a while back in the day. He seemed a very nice chap, very interesting.
Very nice.
Some of these guys, they pack so much in. Incredible. What is also incredible, I think one way or another, we probably mentioned it, and you probably saw it, I don't know, a year, 18 months back, about the iconic Blue Note Jazz Club opening in London.
Woo!
Now, of course, they are around, and at one stage I thought, has the project fallen through? But like all these things, it's taken forever and a day, probably to get all the paperwork through, and they'd argue with councils about noise and limits for licenses and how late they could play, etc., etc. It is now actually happening, though, and the grand opening with Robert Glasper is taking place at September the 23rd at the Blue Note in London. We shall definitely... Don't think we'll get down there for that, but we'll certainly hope to try it out if we can, maybe later on this year. And I thought, well, we don't want to let it pass without perhaps mentioning it here and having a little celebration on Jumpin In. And of course, what are we going to do? We're going to play something from Blue Note. And take your pick. I mean, there are so many. I plumped for one of the few existing iconic Blue Note artists from back in the day, the great days and the sort of the bebop era, I think still going, Herbie Hancock, and one of his absolute all-time classics, Maiden Voyage. And from that we'll hear Eye of the Hurricane. Still sounds fresh as paint, as they say, recorded in 1965. Eye of the Hurricane from the classic Blue Note Maiden Voyage album of Herbie Hancock. Freddie Hubbard on trumpet, George Coleman tenor, Herbie on piano, of course, Ron Carter bass, and Tony Williams driving everything along on the drums. This music, said Herbie, attempts to capture the vastness of the sea and its majesty, the splendour of a seagoing vessel on its maiden voyage, the graceful beauty of the playful dolphins, dolphin dance, of course, the constant struggle for survival of even the tiniest sea creatures, and the awesome destructive power of the hurricane, which we've just heard there, nemesis of seamen. That is, seamen, of course. Great stuff, and wonderful that it is... the club is actually up and going. And yeah, curiously, there doesn't seem to be a huge amount of sort of hard bop in the opening sort of release of acts. But I suppose, again, they're looking for a younger crowd. They're trying to get as many bums on seats as they can. So I guess they've gone for trying to pull in a younger crowd, get more people into jazz. I understand where they're going on the whole thing, and we will certainly go along and check it out. Great to have another jazz venue there. Yusuf Days, I see, is playing, and as I say, Robert Glasper doing the grand opening this September. So if you're down in London, check it out. I think the tickets haven't actually gone on sale yet, so you might be looking to get in there. No doubt they'll go very quickly in the first few weeks. Then when it settles down, there'll probably be more space, I imagine. But it'd be great to go and check it out and see how Balloon Out London is looking.
And it's situated just off Covent Garden, so a nice walkable little triangle between there, Ronnie's, and the Pizza Express.
You can get to all of them within about 5-10 minutes, can't you?
Exactly. Yeah. Next up from me, a piano trio, a fantastic piano trio captured live in Copenhagen's famed jazz club, the Jazzhus Montmartre, on a cold January night back in 2013, where we see Danish pianist Carsten Dahl pair with a great American rhythm section of Ruben Rogers on bass and Greg Hutchinson at the drums. And from Into the Storm, here's a Dahl original, Minoring Together. And there it ends quite abruptly. A live recording, as you can tell there, Carsten Dahl, one of the leading lights of the Danish jazz community, with one of his compositions minoring together, with Reuben Rogers on bass and Gregory Hutchison at the drums. This was a series of concerts where they put American rhythm sections with local Danish musicians. Across 9 tracks, the trio brings us a mix of originals and standards with some fabulous ensemble work and quite breathtaking improvisation. He's a very good pianist. Into the Storm is out now on Storyville, which, as Storyville tells us, is the oldest continuous jazz label in Europe.
Yeah, I think it must be. Excellent stuff, and I must check that one out. Sounds really good. Enjoying that one, and yeah, it sounded like it was going on to greater things there as it sort of faded out, as you say, in a live setting. You are listening to Jumpin In, the best in modern and contemporary jazz with Chris and myself, H, here on Manx Radio, of course. And here's to another new one from our friends at Braithwaite and Cats over there in Connecticut. And very interestingly, most of the music we get these days come in as downloads, and obviously that makes it so much easier. You can get the photos, you can get all the music in WAV and FLAC and MP3 and all the rest of it in sort of press kits, EPKs. But every so often they say CD available if you want, and I still like physical media. I just like the tactility of it and seeing it and reading the notes and looking at the pictures and all the rest of it, which you can't do quite the same in the digital realm. Although the music obviously sounds the same, but I do like putting something into spin or putting vinyl on still, as a lot of people still do. So I said, oh yeah, we can do. And yeah, bless them. Thanks, guys. They did indeed send one over from Connecticut. Tributaries, New England Jazz Collaborative. And it's an artist-led non-profit collective, we're told, dedicated to commissioning, presenting and documenting new music by a diverse group of living composers and also expanding the audience for jazz and related genres. What's not to like about that? The work's been featured in Boston Globe, Boston Magazine and on NPR's Morning Edition, and has received report from the National Park Service, Eastern Bank, Cambridge Community Foundation and Mass Cultural Council. And now it's receiving a report, or support I should say, from Manx Radio Jumping In here in the Isle of Man. Thanks very much, guys. Sounding really good. I've listened to the album a couple of times and liking it a lot. We're going to hear track 2 on the album called All Liminal. Yeah, really been enjoying this album. As I say, tributaries from the New England Jazz Collective on ACP Records. Amherst College Press's open access record label for new jazz recordings. And as its name suggests, it's all tracks from different and probably composers you've not heard of in the jazz genre. So in that case, track 2, Old Liminal, is by Matlin Rubinstein, or Rubinstein, they'll probably say in the States, who we say is a composer, pianist, electronic musician and sound designer. And you can sort of hear that electronic influence, I think, in there as well, although there's not any discernible, I think, electronics there per se. And his work ranges from concert music, improvisation, film, dance, interactive media. He's toured and recorded widely. He leads the Modular Music Ensemble, I do like the sound of them, and the Marlborough Slipstream, and teaches music and sound studies at Emerson College in Boston. Yeah, interesting. It's always great to hear these new sounds, and big bands in particular, which just, they're so difficult to organise and so costly these days. I'm constantly amazed at how many young players have access or doing music for big bands. A lot of work as well, of course, to score for all the different instruments. So, yeah, enjoyed that one very muchly indeed, and thanks very much again to our friends at Braithwaite and Katz for sending that one over.
Yeah, I've been enjoying that too, although don't have a disc, sadly, but there we go. A great modern set now from a couple of jazz veterans. I say veterans, trumpeter Brian Lynch is only 2 years older than me, but I suppose he's heading that way. But sax maestro Charles McPherson is 87 and still blowing very well indeed. And a mix of different rhythm sections. It's still on this recent quintet release. It is always a quintet, but it moves around occasionally, plus a vocalist. The release is called Torchbearers, and here's Luck of the Draw. Yeah, very nice. Indeed, a lovely loping groove on that. Look of the Draw from the latest release from trumpeter Brian Lynch. Got quite a few of his, actually. Big band with his septet, and this one with Luis Perdomo on piano on that track, Boris Kozlov on bass, and Kyle Swan at the drums. The album also features two other pianists, Orrin Evans and Rob Schneiderman, and also drummer Ulysses Owens Jr., and a couple of tracks with vocalist Samara Joy. And very good is Two Torchbearers is out now.
Yeah, most enjoyable. I did see Brian Lynch. I've seen him a few times and trying to think. I think I saw him on the wonderful jazz cruise I did a long time ago now, it has to be said. It was one of those outstanding sort of holidays where you still remember it and certain parts of it, particularly sitting out the back on the stern of the boat, the SS Norway as it was, sadly defunct now I think, with the Illinois Jacquet Big Band playing in full swing and sitting at the back there under a Caribbean sky with after the captain's dinner, so you're all dressed up and having a sort of a cigar and an Armagnac and listening to the band and thinking, this could be as good as life is ever going to get. And I think so far it's about right. Wonderful stuff, but brings lots of happy memories, music and food and, yes, being in the right place at the right time. Wonderful stuff. Anyway, also, which I've enjoyed and brought me an awful lot of pleasure over the years, the music of ECM. And as we are indeed, I'm sure you quite often, if you're an ECM fan, might be online. And there's at least 2 ECM forums dedicated to the music for ECM fans, and people often posting things about new recordings, what are their favourite old recordings, what are the best of this, best, all the usual stuff you see online. And just quite recently, it makes for interesting a way to pass the time when you're, bored for a few minutes, or you can go down a rabbit hole, of course. And one which came up recently was this one, which I'd not heard for quite some time, Barra Phillips' Mountainscapes, going back to 1976. And the poster said, "Wow, just played this." And I think the phrase he used was batshit crazy. He said, it still sounds bonkers even now, of its time maybe, but still sounds sort of way out there in places. And I thought, I'll have to go back and give it a listen. I remember it being a favourite at the time when I first heard it in the probably early 80s, I would guess. And yeah, it still sort of sounds far out there, still quite free, again, of its era with some of the synth sounds and such like, but nonetheless enjoyable for that. The track's just simply called 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, etc. You get the gist of it. I'll give you the lineup in a moment. We're going to hear track 2.
Hi there, this is John Sermon and you're listening to Jumpin In on Manx Radio.
like that. The latest, I'm saying the latest from Jeremy Pelt. He's so prolific. That was September 25 it was recorded. He could have done another 10 albums by now. To the best of my knowledge, that's the latest from Jeremy out on the High Note label. Fantastic player. Playing that because we are going to see Jeremy Pelt at Ronnie Scott's, as I mentioned earlier on, in November of this year with our correspondent from Luxembourg who mentioned it, and I don't think I've seen him live before. If I have, I can't remember it, so very much looking forward to that. Always enjoy his albums, but Lord, you'd need very deep pockets if you wanted to get all of his output, because he is incredibly prolific as well as being a really good player, and a bit like Miles, plays in lots of different styles each time. That latest one, Our Community Will Not Be Erased, but you can see where he's coming from there, and that track is called Brother on the Corner, or Brothers on the Corner. Jeremy on trumpet, Oren Evans piano, ex-Bad plus of course Buster Williams bass, Lenny White on drums. And before that, as I say, from 1976, Barra Phillips, Mountainscapes with Barra Phillips on bass. John Sermon, who we heard from there on sax and synthesizer, Dieter Feichner also on synth, and Stu Martin, the late Stu Martin, on drums and synthesizer. And John Abercrombie features on that as well, on one track, not the track we heard. But if you've never heard it before, check it out. You'll find it, Mountainscapes on ECM.
And there's still lots and lots of John Abercrombie coming out from various cupboards around the place. And of course, Oren Evans also featured on that Brian Lynch album that I played before, but with Lawrence
Busy Man.
Padumo on the track.
Yeah, great.
Well, that just about rounds it up for this week's show. We've got time to leave you with a new release from pianist Simon Graziono and his new band MM, which was made up of a trio: Francesco Ponticelli on bass, Marco Frattini on drums, and Simone playing himself on a treated piano, with a bit of a minimalist groove going on here on Lunaria, taken from their latest release just called MM. The band say MM represents the syllables of silence, those fleeting instants between phrases where thoughts collect, images sharpen, and the voice takes its time to emerge. The sound suspension itself. And who am I to disagree? Anyway, see you in a couple of weeks. Bye for now.
Indeed. Don't try playing yourself at home, children.
Take care.